Hey guys, Ryan Finnegan here, owner of Finnegan Security Solutions, and today I want to talk about accountability and your ability as a business or an organization or a school to have the means and the plans to rapidly be able to account for anyone and everyone during a natural or man-made disaster. If you look at normal plans that exist. We often say, we're good. I only have 15 people that work for me. But until there's a workplace violence or an active shooter event, there's a natural type of occurrence, whether it's an earthquake, a large magnitude earthquake, which Southern California is expecting, a tornado, a building collapse, a natural gas explosion. Once those occur, your ability to account for 20 people to go, oh yeah, John, he sits over there in that cubicle, and Sally's off today, she had something to take care of. It goes away. I mean, you're talking mass pandemonium. You've got car alarms going off, you've got smoke, debris, blood, your ears are ringing, you're panicking. And the longer that it takes you to remember everybody that's on your shift or within your company, the longer that potentially people are trapped inside of a building. And what ends up happening is you're relying on one or two people to be able to account for 5, 10, 15, 20, 75 people. What happens if those people are casualties or they're trapped inside the building and first responders come and they just start talking to people trying to figure out how many people are in there? What's the answer going to be? I don't even know. So what I want you to do is to go back and look at your accountability plan to see if it works. When was the last time you've tested it? All right. When was the last time you've tested it with stress? If you don't have one, awesome, right? This blog is going to show you a way that we use it that you can simply break down how to, one, account for people rapidly in a semi chaotic situation. If you do have a plan, I would ask that you go back and really take a look at the span of control. So for every one person, so myself as a supervisor, how many people am I accounting for? Am I accounting for 4 people, 10 people, an entire shift of 30 people? Because if that's the case, the span of control is way too big for you to be able to rapidly account for people as far as where they sit, where they are they at the bathroom, did they leave early, are they on break? So the easiest way to do this is to break it down in a manner that happens every single day across our military, and that's the chain of command. So what I've taken is what we did in the Marine Corps, and I removed a couple of people out of there that don't need to be in there. But if you look at the breakdown, take any military organization, you have the commanding officer. So you can equate the commanding officer to, the CEO, the owner of the business, whoever the case may be. Right, so the commanding officer gives orders. Does everything need to immediately be funneled up to him or her? Yeah, eventually. However, as we start to break this down, the key component of this starts to really deal with your operations guys, but at the supervisor level. So when I break down my supervisors, and if you look at in the blog that I'm posting, and I'll post this online, you can see that it's scalable, but for every supervisor that I have across the board, right, I may break down if that supervisor has, 20 people underneath them, and I want to keep a span of control very close, right, as I may assign team leaders. And so when you look at the Marine Corps, when you start to really get into it, you have a platoon commander, which is in charge of his platoon and his or her platoon, and they give orders, and they're in direct reflection. Under them, you've got a platoon sergeant. So the platoon sergeant makes things happen. Probably one of the best jobs that you can have in the Marine Corps. So under your platoon sergeant, then you have squads. So most will average 4 squads. Some will have 5, depending on where you are, what you do. And if you're in a really small shop, you may only have 1 squad. So within a squad, you've got the squad leader. And then within the squad leader, which is overall in charge of the 12 people underneath them, there's 13 people in a squad. Then you have 4 team leaders that make up that squad. So within your squad, you've got fire teams, and your fire teams have a team leader. So what happens is you start information flow up and down the chain. The platoon commander tells the platoon sergeant will give the marching orders down to the squad leaders, which in turn will give them down to the team leaders, which will then tell the Marines. So when I break down the squad leader is really in charge of all 12 people that's in his squad. But within there, really, I don't have to go tell 12 people. All I have to do is tell my team leader. So if you take that into a business sense, when it comes to accountability is, if the supervisor breaks down and let's say he's got 12 people that work on his shift, he doesn't necessarily need to account for all 12 people. He can assign 1, 2, or 3 different people to act as his team leaders, and it doesn't need to be in a supervisory or leadership role, right? But you can use it for accounting. So when something happens, if I'm only in charge of 3 people, I can tell you where Johnny, Billy, and Sally are, right? Because that's all I've got to worry about. If I'm trying to figure out where 12 people are, as everything around me seems like the world is collapsing, all right, it becomes a lot more difficult. So you can do this across the board, and you really don't need to change anything. If you've already got a reporting system for, let's take a school, for example. If I'm going to call in sick, let's say the school policy is that you'll call the school secretary and you'll tell her or him that I'm going to be out sick today. So they can track that. And then when I look at my squad leader, right, that squad leader can be a senior teacher, or, if I'm in a university, I have a department head. And so another department head, I may have, say, 4 English teachers, right? So I'm only in charge of those 4 English teachers. So whatever I call, they simply tell me, hey, Mr. Jones is going to be out sick today, and Miss Fields is going to be taking his spot. So I can write that down, so I maintain good accountability. If I don't have it and something happens, who's the person that's going to account for me, for the other teachers, right? Somebody that is sitting higher up, right? That's where you'll often see misreporting, unreporting. That's why I never watch immediately after event, because the number of casualties is usually double, all right? Because that will show you the magnitude of the pure chaos that happens. Is it 12 casualties? Is it 24 casualties? Is it 60 people injured? Or is it really only 20 people injured that are reported 3 times? So go back and take a look and figure out within your organization how you can break this down to manageable size numbers, so that if something happens and we go to evacuate and we're in the parking lot or wherever our evacuation point may be, right, I only have to look for 3 people that are going to tell me where 12 people are located at, right? And if they have full accountability of the people they're in charge of, because this is going to significantly reduce the amount of time that it takes for me to find everybody. So go back, take a look at what I posted, and I'm going to refresh this, and I'm going to keep continuing to build, excuse me, a couple of different looks for this, right? But the bigger the company, obviously, the bigger the reporting. The smaller the company, if I've only got 5 employees, I just need to figure out how I'm going to account for 5 people. If I've got less than 25 people, I may have a straight line diagram of the reporting up the chain. Now, obviously, if I've got a massive company of 500 employees and I'm running 3 shifts, and those 3 shifts are comprised of 100 or 125 people per shift, then it's going to be a lot more complex. But the complexity needs to be broken down where it's extremely simple and everybody knows their role. They know where they're going, they know who to tell if they're going on break. And then those that are reporting up need to know who I'm telling, right? Because when the first responders come, the first thing they're going to ask you is how many people are missing. If your answer is, I don't know, I don't have a clue, right? Now they've got to go systematically. If I can tell you that 25 people are missing and they work in the northeast corner of the building, right? That allows them to start to quickly formulate a plan versus I have no idea and I've got a 15,000 square foot building and my doors are blocked. Okay, clearing 15,000 square feet of a building with a roof collapse and heavy equipment laying all over the place is going to be difficult, and people are going to lay there, and unfortunately some will die, some will bleed out, some will become in worse condition than if you take the time up front to establish what our plan is. Is it going to be change? Absolutely. All right. Do you want to take the chance on not rocking the boat and why is Billy put in charge? Yeah, sure, you can avoid all that and you can really hope that nothing happens, right? But that's not the way that you want to handle business, especially when you're dealing with lives on the line. So to wrap this up, really go back, take a look at your evacuation plan and your accountability plan, and how do we report the numbers up and who does it go to? And then, if the numbers are too big where you identify one guy is accounting for 15, 17, 20 people, is how can we logically, in the easiest manner possible, during pure chaos, break this thing down to maybe 3 people accounting for a small group. If that doesn't work because of geographical location, maybe I have 2 people that account for 6 people each. And now I got, 12 people being accounted for. And this allows me to provide the first responders that are coming, right, a good, accurate picture of how many people are inside, right? So you can do this with a church. You don't even need to do this with necessarily a business, but look at a church. If I break a church down by the ushers and I tell the ushers that, hey, you're going to take the rows on the right, and usher number 2, you're going to take the rows in the middle. Usher number 3, you're going to take the rows on the left. And if something were to happen, right, and we've seen tornadoes recently, we've seen a couple of active shooter in churches, right? What this will do is they don't necessarily need to count and know how many people are there by name. But if I know that there are 25 people in my section, right, this will help me kind of get a general idea. And I'm not going to have 100% accuracy, but if there's 200 people in church and I've got to count for 25 of them, and usher number 2 in the middle has got to take the masses, right? And then the usher on the right, maybe he's got 25 or 30 in his section. And in the end, we start counting and we realize that, somewhere along the line, maybe we're 30 people short. Did those people just up and leave? Are they still trapped inside? But it allows us to quickly formulate a general number of people that are missing versus, I don't know, we hand clicked in 250 people, have no idea how many are missing. All right, that becomes a nightmare. So when we put these together, or when you put them together, make sure that you keep them as simple as possible. Notice I keep going back to simple because if you make a complex plan, your chances of it working are slim to none. Right, unless you repeatedly exercise it, you exercise it with all your people, and it becomes a habit forming action where people know exactly where to go, how to count, how they're going to count off. If I put a 25-page report together on how we're going to evacuate, and the time we've got to do it, it's going to be pure chaos. So I want to keep it simple. I want to identify people by name and give them a role to do. Is you are in charge of these 3 people, or you're in charge of these 6 people. So when they go on break, right, or are not in, what I want you to do, just write it down, put it in your pocket so that if something happens in the unlikely event, we know where they are. All right. So pick them out how you want. You can take a volunteer. You can take a superstar employee. You could take that employee that may be new, or you see some hope in him, and you think by giving him a little bit of responsibility will significantly boost his potential later on in life. All right, pick him. It doesn't really matter who it is. You just got to have people there that can account for your staff. So this is something that we could certainly break down for you. If you need further explanation, feel free to reach out, give us your scenario, give us your situation that you're in, and then, we'll see what we can do and what we can provide, at least some thoughts on how to break it down. But the key thing is you've got to have something, dust it off the shelf, exercise it. When you exercise it, don't just go, okay, we're doing a fire drill, meet in the parking lot. All right, start to add some time in it. When I start to add time is I want everybody in the parking lot within a minute, right? When that fire alarm goes off, and I want to make sure that you coordinate between law enforcement and fire department and all those correct people, is when I pull that fire alarm, you have less than a minute to get to the established meeting point. Now, when we get to that established meeting point, supervisor, you have under 2 minutes to give me 100% accountability of your people, who they are, where they are. Are they at work? Are they not at work? Are they accounted for? If you can't do that within an increased time, and then if you want to start to throw a wrinkle in, pull somebody out and tell them not to go outside. Then you ask the supervisor, where were they? Where do they sit? All right, let's go. Give me the answer. We don't have time. You're going to start to watch them struggle through exactly, okay, where are they sitting at? All right, but if I break this thing down into a manageable means, and I only have to worry about 3 people, and I can account for 2, and that third isn't there, I can tell you exactly where their classroom is. I can tell you where their cubicle is. I can tell you that they went to lunch at 11:30, and they shouldn't be back until 12:30. So if you got any questions, make sure to reach out to us. You can email us at fss_USA@Yahoo, or you can reach us on any of our social medias. We've got 2 Facebook pages and an Instagram page. But other than that, feel free to leave your comments. Feel free to tell us what you do. We're always looking to see kind of what works best and some best practices, because, obviously the goal is, if something works, is to emulate it. If it doesn't work, figure out why and figure out how we can make it better. So until next time, I appreciate your time, and stay prepared.